Hi guys. So my name is Chika, and we have Ayo here. Welcome, Ayo.
Thank you, Chika. Nice and lovely to be here.
Yeah, we thank you for making our time to join us.
Thank you.
We want to have this conversation about why we decided to start leadership and leverage.
Yep.
Why the name leadership and leverage, and what problems are we trying to solve? And also, what makes this podcast different from other ones, right? So it's easy for people to think, oh, it's just another podcast, you know, but we'll talk through what is leadership and leverage. Why is leadership, the topic leadership, even something that needs to be taken proper care of? That doesn't need we don't need to talk about it lightly. Something really serious. And we also talk through personal experiences of maybe horrible leaders we've probably had in the past. We may not mention names or companies, but probably feel maybe things should be done better, and maybe mistakes employees also make. There are that forces leadership to take some drastic actions. Things of that sort, and that's basically where we're having this conversation. So yeah.
Mm,
Um, so let's start with the fact as to maybe it's rhetorical question. I don't know, but why leadership and leverage? Maybe I should even answer that as well.
yeah.
Um, when I was ideating this, I knew I wanted to launch a project or a program that would help people to get better in their fields. I've founded a startup for more than 3 years now. I've been running sales boot camps, and it has exposed me to a lot of things when it comes to leadership, which I never knew.
Mm,
I've come to learn how to manage people, how to delegate tasks. And I think that's where the idea of sharing my
yeah.
journey, talking about what leaders should know about. I've got my hands burnt a lot of times when it comes to bringing in a team member that probably doesn't really understand what we're trying to do, and probably is expecting perfection from a bootstrapped startup that has little funds. A whole lot of things. I just felt, sometimes I even felt, I at some point I felt like, is it really worth it running this sales boot camp? Should I even continue? But I'm glad I did not, because I've been able to impact life. So when I was choosing a name, I wanted to talk about this. I really wanted to talk about it, and also wanted to get insight from other leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was choosing it, I was like, what do I call it? What do I call it that passes the message and helps you understand that this is what we wanted to. So finally, after a lot of dilly dallying back and forth, because I'm very choosy when it comes to names, and I sometimes lose interest in things. So I didn't want a name that would not capture exactly what we're trying to do, but at the same time wanted a name that looks really good, that people will hear like, okay, looks sounds good. So I settled for leadership and leverage. So that was how it came about, the name, and that was how the idea came. And I've also had not so good experiences with with leaders that are not so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad, but certain traits and
You're
skills
learning.
they exhibited. I'm like, no, 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 this is not okay. So I felt like, okay, maybe I could also talk about this as time goes on, have other leaders, other top leaders in different fields come share strategies that has helped us and things of that sort. So that's basically the overview of how I approached it, how I think about it. But now, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
from your experience
Yeah.
over the years, would you mind sharing a personal experience of, how bad leadership may have impacted your work or career, if you've had any?
Yes, definitely. To be honest, there was something you mentioned that there is no perfect organization, or even you starting your, even you bringing up a startup, like people have expectation and all of that, but there is no perfect person and there is no perfect company.
True.
But you just have to choose what works for you, what you can really deal with. So
Yeah.
personally, I have experienced great leadership. I wouldn't even just call it good, great leadership. And I've also experienced the worst. Yes. So there was a job I had. The manager that brought me in, she was such an awesome person. She interviewed me. It was awesome. But a few months down the line, she left. She went to another department. So
Oh.
this person that has never been a leader was made a leader of my manager. And I was like, okay, I mean, it shouldn't be that bad. It shouldn't be that bad, but it definitely turned out to be something I didn't expect. Just imagine going from something that you've not even trained for, or you just, and also she wasn't really interested in being a manager, and it was evident, even the way she spoke and some of those things. She even said it directly at some point, you know, and all of that. She said it in passing. So we're like, okay, this should not be that bad. But then we also knew that there were some things that I think a lot of times people bring their personal life also into work. And honestly, we are human. That's why there is human in human resource, right? We're still human, right? But then it started reflecting in work as well. It started showing up as micromanagement. It started showing up as looking over people's shoulder to see if they're actually working. Like that was when I realized that, I'm like, what? I was so shocked. It started showing up as being, when the atmosphere is very uptight, like you cannot even talk to your colleague for a long time. You already know that your manager is looking over your shoulder. You cannot chit chat for even a bit. Like there was just this very uptight environment around, and that's not very healthy even for mental health. So when I talk about leadership, good and bad managers, I always try to ensure that it's not coming from a bad light. That's why when you mentioned expectations, I'm like, people are learning. Like, I still love this person irrespective, and I give grace to this person. And like, she's learning. She just doesn't know. She's still human aside from work. And also, the great manager I had, I remember when she was leaving, I bought her a note and I wrote how amazing she was. It's always nice to let people know. I'm always big on letting people know how awesome they are. Oh my God, you're incredible. And I bought her a note. Now she's in top leadership and all of that, but she would never forget what I did, even though, I mean, you can call that leverage at some point if I ever need something from her. But then I don't plan to at this moment. But yeah, so that's one experience I've had in the past. Yeah.
Man, I could totally relate with your story. Having a great leader changes a lot of things for you.
Yes.
Like it can change the trajectory of your career completely. You can move from point one to point
Yes.
five real quick.
Fast. Yes.
I can say that for a certainty. And having a horrible leader, oh my God.
Mm,
Every day you wake up to go to work, you're scared.
your mental state.
Oh,
Like, no.
it's something else.
Yes.
You know, and that's exactly why we are having this conversation. That's why leadership and leverage podcast is important because it achieves two major things. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
it helps employees know the right leaders to work with,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
how to treat their leaders.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it will help leaders who are great continue being great
Yeah.
who are horrible, change and become better
Yeah.
to promote a healthy work environment. So
Yeah.
it's both ways. So from the conversation we'll be having with a lot of leaders out there from different where I'm very intentional about who I select. Like very, very intentional. So when we reach out to leader, we're reaching out to people that we know can, speak and talk about um, you know, how they've helped other people. But now, Ayo, I wanted to find out how how do you think employees can improve their relationship with their leaders? Are there things that
Mm,
you've applied over the years that
yeah.
has helped you improve your relationship with your managers? Yeah, would you mind sharing that?
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it will go back to my core values. The core values I really hold is serve rather. I summarize it as serve. And what is serve? What is the main purpose of you being employed? Aside from there's the emotional part, but you are being employed to do the job and be productive at it, right? So when we talk about productivity and also wanting your manager's approval or just growing your relationship with your manager is most happy when you're productive and do the work you are being paid to do. So let's talk about S. S is simplicity. You don't understand a task, reach out to your manager or the person above you and really ask, right? Just make sure that you are not doing the wrong thing, using the time that is being allotted for your work in the wrong, doing the wrong task or not doing the right thing just because you don't want to ask the question. Be humble enough to actually ask and just simplify things. Then the second one is excellence, which is E. Just be excellent at your job. That would feed into productivity. Your manager will be happy. Like, it's the person that does the work well that they're really rooting for in the boardroom. Those are people they put up for promotion and new task and all of that. So be excellent at your job. Don't let it be, oh, I'm doing this just to gain approval, but let it be something that anything you touch should be excellent. Then be real. Like, just be real. We are human. Just be a real person. I always say this: when you are authentic, when you show up authentically to work or anything you are doing, you give other people permission to also be authentic. Your manager will be authentic if you are authentic. That's leadership by example, really, as well. Then V is value. Be a person of value. You have a new colleague that just came to the workplace, a new employee, and you can always just volunteer to really put this person through, right? Just be a person of value that is proactive. That word, proactive, to give value and also receive value. And the last one is exchange. You're in an elevator. You're in an elevator and you have people that just be a nice person and say, good morning, good afternoon. Just be a nice person, right? Work is hard enough. Work, just be calm, chill, and yeah, exchange pleasantries, exchange ideas, exchange greetings, just be a generally great person. I think all of that really would feed into any, even if it's not your manager, anybody would just like to be with you or be associated with you if you just have a mind of service. So that's my personal core values, and I bring that and show up use in into any room with that mindset. Yeah.
I love this point you've mentioned, Ayo. They're spot on. Having a mind of service is really important, especially in a country like Canada, which both of us
Yeah.
are in. You
Yeah.
can't afford not to have that kind of mind. And when employers say they want people with Canadian culture, these are some
Mm-hmm.
of the things they're trying to communicate with you, right? Some of these things. In Canada, there is dignity in labor. You have to do the
Yeah.
work, like you mentioned.
You have to do the
And just
work.
expect to coast along, and at the end of the month, you get paid. You have to do the work. So it's important. Of course, these principles cuts across every industry, every location, every country, every continent, just not just in Canada. So it's important that if you look at it very well, critically and holistically,
Yeah.
great managers love people that do the work
Yeah.
and are interested in others. These are the people that great managers also make managers. Or
Mm-hmm.
these are the people that leaders
Yeah.
also make leaders.
Yes.
They do the work
They
and
do
they're
the work.
interested in others, helping them to do the work.
Yeah.
Once you have these two qualities, you grow fast. I've noticed it. I noticed when I was working with a Canadian agency, when I was still in my home country, Nigeria, that was the thing that helped me to get promoted. I'm just being factual here.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
nature is sincerely, genuinely. I don't do it
Yeah.
to show off. I'm interested in people.
Yeah.
It's just a trait in me. It's just I can't help it. Of course, some people would always misunderstand that. That's okay. No problem. Go ahead and
Yeah.
misunderstand. However, it's something that would help you to improve your relationship with your manager
Yeah.
and also get you to the next level if you're someone that wants to grow.
Yeah.
So you have to be interested in people. For you to improve your relationship with a manager, for you to increase your longevity in a company and grow, you have to be in sync with your manager. And for you to be in sync
Yeah.
with your manager, you have to be genuinely interested in that person. It will help you improve your communication skills, know how you can support the person. Because once you support the person, because your manager also wants to get promoted, or whoever leader, or your director wants to get into senior director or VP
Yeah.
position. Your manager wants to get into senior manager or director position. You want to get into a senior level as well. So if you can help your manager to move up, then your manager will help you to move what
To move
up.
up.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And for you to do that very well, you need to be able to be in sync with that leader. It's just
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Totally
It is what
agree.
it is.
I
So
like that. Yeah.
relationship with your co-workers, relationship with your see the thing when we say relationship with your co-workers, we're not just trying to tell people to go be friends with everybody. That's not what we're saying.
No.
But be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
You might not be friends with everyone, or you cannot to be enemies with everyone.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
That's the wrong place to be at, It's a very wrong place
You
to
don't
be
want
at.
to be there, no.
All right, so yeah. Then now, Ayo, let's move into a couple of problems
Yeah.
that we're trying to solve with this podcast. Because, like I said initially when we're starting this podcast, this isn't just another podcast. And I'm serious.
Yeah.
And I'm sincerely saying it. This is different.
Definitely believe that. Yeah.
This is different. You notice, our viewers will notice it once they start watching the episodes. It's different. Of course, we'll keep getting
Yeah.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Each episode we get better. It gets better and better. And when I'm reaching out to guests for this podcast, you know, some people, some podcast hosts would always, invite people to the podcast and explain a bit of the things they want,
Mm-hmm.
for the guests to talk about in the podcast or the direction they're going to, some generic thing, right? But we are approaching this different, and I'll tell you how, Ayo. We have, when we are reaching out to a guest, we tell the person the problems we are trying to solve with this podcast,
Yes.
right? These are the top 5 problems we're trying to solve with this podcast. We itemize it, the problem, and how we think this podcast can solve this problem, which is a solution.
Yeah.
And it changes the perception people have or our perspective have with the podcast. They quickly understand that, okay, this is a podcast where I have to come give value so that it will
Yes.
benefit the leaders. Funny thing is, we are not interested at this early stage as to how many people that view our podcast. That's not even what we are interested in. We are not concerned about
Value.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about, monetization or viewers. uh, Sincerely, right?
Yeah.
I'm not concerned. The major thing is ensuring that we have great content. When I mean great content, I mean the conversations we're having are quality conversations.
Yeah.
Even the editing skills, I'm still learning video editing, so I still have mature skills in video editing. So our viewers will just have to put up with that for a while I get better at it. Not much heavy editing, just simple editing, adding subtitles and all that. So we just need to get the content out there. I just hope they focus on the conversations and try to
Yeah.
glean lessons from the conversations we're having.
Yeah.
So now the first problem I want us to talk about, which
Mm-hmm.
the podcast solves, is lack of accessible mentorship.
Hmm.
Lack of accessible mentorship. Because see, you know what they usually say about if you want to go far, you go alone. If you want to go fast, you go alone.
If you
But
want
if
to
you want
go
to go
far,
far, you go
have
with what?
company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts, Ayo,
Yeah.
on this first problem. Do you think leaders really have enough mentorship?
Hmm. Can you rephrase that question, please?
Or I will. Leaders, managers,
Yeah.
directors in different companies or where
Yeah.
you work at the moment, or
Mm-hmm.
leaders in general, do you really think they have enough mentorship? Do you think they are prioritizing mentorship? Because I know there are directors that probably don't have a mentor.
Yes, I totally agree. Um, do I think they have enough mentorship? I think, to be honest, a lot of companies, they are focused on getting the work done. You would see some that in their values, in their vision, they're like, okay, mentorship and all of that. But it goes beyond just having 2 or 3 sessions of training. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond just going for a conference and calling it mentorship conference. It goes beyond that. Like you mentioned, there is a need for accessibility. There are people that are up there. And honestly, it's not everybody that is up there that should be up there, because not everybody up there is actually a great leader. So I would say there should definitely be a system where junior staff or people that are just coming in can access people that are great leaders there, and you let them choose. You can really tell somebody that is a great leader even by just looking at them or looking at how they communicate and talk to people and deliver all these values and all. So let people have the flexibility of choosing if possible, or even if they do not have the choice of choosing at first, then you can always open up that option, like, okay, if you're not really working well with this person, you can always come back to change and all of that. So I would say definitely mentorship is. Uh, I don't think I'm answering this question well, really.
You actually answering it well. I
Yeah,
I appreciate the point you mentioned about the fact
yeah,
that in companies,
yeah,
leaders need to prioritize mentorship. It goes beyond just
yeah,
having 5 or 10 minutes one-on-ones with
yeah,
people that they lead. At the
yeah.
same time as well, Ayo, I
Mm.
believe strongly that the people that are mentoring also need to be mentored. They also need to fall
I
back
like
on
that.
people. They need to learn from others, and that's where I
Yeah.
think that there's a gap.
Mm.
We are laying so much emphasis on leaders
Yeah.
mentoring the ones that are coming up,
Yeah.
and we're not focusing on the people mentoring to also get mentored.
Yeah,
That is the
and
gap.
you could get mentored by people that are ahead, and even learning from people that are coming behind as well. Mentorship is a two-way relationship. It's not just I am pouring into you. It's also the leaders being humble enough to say, that's new. Just
Yeah.
imagine millennial and Gen Zs are very
Yeah.
close in age. maybe someone that is way older, maybe in their 60s, mentoring, let's say, a Gen Z. They are new. You have to be flexible and open enough to learn from this vibrant young person. You are being mentored that way. It just it's not, it's probably just not, oh, I'm telling you this and that. But even just mentorship goes beyond talking. It also has to do with being, just looking and observing the person. Like, interesting. Can you tell me more about that? That's to the junior staff. And also the younger one, of course, the senior one will have a lot to say and pour into the person. But maybe the seniors should consider being when you are learning from the junior staff. And the junior staff should consider listening when you're learning from the senior staff. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. Spot on. I'm just going to read out the five problems we have here from our brochure on what we're trying to solve the Genius Nimble. The five problems. The number one is lack of accessible mentorship, which we just talked about. The second one is
yeah.
knowledge gap in leadership strategies, right?
Hmm.
Nobody's perfect. Even the leaders
Yeah.
have gaps in how they approach problems. It might not be the best of ways. So we want a situation whereby the episodes we are releasing, the conversation we're having with leaders on our podcast will be able to help other leaders, other aspiring leaders who are
Yeah.
struggling to understand effective leadership strategies that they should apply in their companies that will help their the people they lead to get better and be productive. And then the third one is navigating career challenges. So leaders, both aspiring leaders and already leaders in the top of their career,
Yeah.
sometimes struggle with overcoming setbacks. Sometimes some of them are not as resilient as they should be. They have some challenges, how to navigate it, how to cope with, let's say letting go. When you're let go from a company, how do you find the right company again to join? Things of that sort. How to come out of performance improvement plans. A lot of conversations we would cover as we host different guests. And then the fourth one is understanding innovation and adaptation. Now, this is a
Mm.
problem I'm personally interested in because a lot of things is happening, a lot of things are happening in the tech space. If a leader is so focused on a particular way of doing things and is not innovative enough, then it will increase employee churn. Employees might leave the company faster. More
Yeah.
people are leaving more than they hire, which is not so good. So,
No.
and also to drive revenue, and in rapid changing industries, is not easy to stay innovative. So, one of the questions I will be asking leaders that will be hosting in this podcast will basically be how they are driving innovation,
Mm.
how they are adapting with the whole changes in the market and in their industry. For example, the rise of artificial intelligence. Every company now is looking at ways to plug into the
Incorporate
rave
that. Yeah.
of AI, right? So I'll ask leaders, are you looking at AI? What are you thinking about it? Does your
For
company have
sure.
plans to add some AI related things in the company, stuff like that. So, innovation and adaptation. Some industries have more competitors now than it used to be in a few years down the line. So, how are they coping with competitors? How are they ensuring that they have enough market share and things of that sort? And then the fifth one is building effective networks and relationship. Ayo, you can agree with me very well that relationship are crucial for career growth, which is also what we've talked about a
Yes.
bit earlier. And
Definitely.
the more leaders, whether aspiring leaders or already the top guys at the echelon of their careers, relationships are very important for you to get
Yes.
to the next level. So we'll talk about, they will share strategies on how they've been able to build their network and relationship. How they been able to sustain a relationship for years? What did they do? When they attend conferences or networking events, how do they approach it? So we also learn from them in those areas. So these are the five major problems we'll solve, and our podcast solves, and we're confident that, of course, so in some conversations we may not cover all the five problems, but at least we'll try and see if we cover at least
Touch on it.
70%, maybe
Yeah.
three of the five. And this would help other leaders and other aspiring leaders who are listening to pick a few things from the conversation and replicate in your company. That's the goal. Learn from this person, apply in your company.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the things that the guests would share, you're already doing it, But there are also some things that the guest might share that you're not currently doing. You could pick those ones, even if it's one or two, and you can see how you can apply it almost immediately at your company. So these are the top. There are a lot of problems we'll come up with as time goes on, but these are the five building blocks we'll be looking at. And yeah, we we'll be ensuring that we try to cover these and help our listeners get real value
Value.
from
Yeah.
the podcast. All right, so Ayo, let's shift a little bit and talk about
Okay.
the profile of the guests that we're trying to have on our podcast. The profile, because it's important. Our viewers should understand the people that we're going to have on the show,
Yeah.
um, and why we chose this kind of people. As you know, we have two segments of people.
Yeah.
Uh, but let's start from the segment two first. The segment two are basically young entrepreneurs. They may not have had top positions in companies, but they've shown potentials in their field, their activities, either personal projects, academic achievements, whatever. They've shown potential that shows that this person, if nurtured, would become a great leader. Right.
Hmm.
So it's just a simple question I want to ask you, Ayo. Why
Yes.
do you think it's important that we have to probably have conversations with this set of people? Let me give you a typical example of the kind of guests we'll be having in this segment two. We've not started it yet. We started
Yeah.
segment one, but segment two, we've not started it, but it's an area we want to explore in the near future. Maybe before the year ends, we'll look into that
Yeah.
as well. But let me give you an example. Let's say someone got into Chevening, the popular
Okay.
scholarship, or got a MasterCard scholarship, or the person graduated from a PhD program and made distinction, and that person had a first class, a master's.
Yeah.
That person has shown some potential
Level
that
of
this person,
dedication.
if the person continues well, is on the path to become a leader in their industry.
Field. Yeah.
Or someone that launched a community project to impact life, giving back to the community, helping
Yeah.
maybe the homeless, or helping people like what you're doing, helping finance people that want to start a career in finance, helping them know,
Yeah.
okay, this is how you're to position, this is how you can structure your resume, these are how you can build your work experiences. And your question is, why do you think it's important that we have conversations with this set of people?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think it's very important because you did mention that you can always see something you by their fruits you would know
I
what people
agree.
are showing.
I
What
agree.
people are showing, like somebody goes to school, let's say a medical doctor, he goes to school 7 years in school and you come out with distinction. Of course you're doing you that's the first sign that I need to see that you're going somewhere.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's not to say that anybody that doesn't come out with a distinction would not.
Mhm.
So that's no comparison. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's something that we can use and hold on to
Early
right
signs.
now. Exactly. So for this person, the technical skill is there. Of course, you're going to be one of the big industry leaders, but also I think something that sometimes we miss out is character in
Mm,
leadership, which is very important. You
I
have the
agree.
technical skill. Do you have the character to withstand that position that you're going to be in? So I think it's important to really discuss this. I really love this podcast already. I would definitely be listening over and over to every episode. I am definitely going to be so tuned in here. And I really encourage everybody to do the same. So I think it's very important to hear. And it also gives other great leaders in industries the ability to really, when they listen to, let's say, your podcast, someone that is upcoming, maybe the example of the medical student, they say, okay, I think I really like that person. That is access, that is solving a problem already. One of the five problem that is access. They reach out to you to reach out to the person, or you put the details of the person. So I think it's very important. That's a way that we can really bridge the gap. That's really a way that we can bridge the gap. I think this podcast is bridging such a crucial gap. So I would say again, technical skills is great. Character is even much more important, to be honest. Yeah.
I agree
I
with
hope
you,
that answers the
Ayo. Like
question.
it's so we felt like you were saying what was in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I said earlier, we are very intentional about this.
Yeah.
Segment two was not. It wasn't what was in the picture
Mm,
earlier, but we wanted a way to see how we could help other younger folks, especially in Africa, to understand that you can do amazing things from a small place.
yes.
Okay? And we've had a lot of bright minds come out from Africa that are doing fantastic things in the world.
Yeah.
But I think it's not spoken of enough.
Yeah.
I think we're not giving them opportunity. We're not giving them a platform to tell us how they did it, the secrets on how they did it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we want to do with the segment two. Young guys, right? There was someone I was reading his profile. I've not reached out to him yet. I was reading his profile on LinkedIn. I saw it somewhere and I went back. I was doing my research. I was reading his profile. He made a first class
Mm,
in his bachelor's. He did his master's in the UK and then he concluded his PhD program in a university in the United States.
yeah.
Bright guy. People like that want to ask them, please, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Starting from when you got admission into this, or even your primary school or secondary school, where was there a trend?
Yeah.
Now, imagine a parent listening to that.
Mm,
Okay, this is probably how I can help my child to become this person. Now, imagine a student in primary school or secondary school
yeah.
or university level and listening to that.
Yeah.
Now, imagine other students who are done with maybe primary, secondary, university, and are trying to probably get an admission or a scholarship
Yeah.
into that same university, listening to that. It has a ripple effect. It's beyond what we can see.
Yes.
We're just seeing it as face value. Oh, the person is basically talking about. We're seeing it as face value, but there's a ripple effect to this thing.
Yes.
It is bigger than we can ever imagine.
I totally
So it's
agree.
not about just the segment one, the
No.
CEOs. The segment one is CEOs, founders, this directors,
Yeah.
venture capitalists. Those guys are the senior men, the guys
Yeah.
doing driving change and innovation at their companies. We
Yeah.
still need to look at the grassroots,
The
those ones
grassroots.
coming up.
Yeah.
And there's no better way for you to teach those ones rather than teaching from the example of their peers, showing them
Mm,
this is how I did it, this is
yeah.
how you
You
can
can do
do
it.
it. That's
Yes.
what we're looking at. And for some people that are thinking, are we going to focus only on academic? No, it's not just academic. Okay, there was someone I already reached out to, though she had not yet accepted. I think maybe she has a busy calendar already, but we'll keep
Yeah.
trying. We'll keep trying to reach out and convince the person and sell
Yeah.
what we're trying to do to the person. You may know her. She has a free school in Nigeria, in Ogun State.
Yes. She's
She has a
incredible.
free school.
Incredible.
Things like this should be publicized
Yes.
more.
Yes.
That's great impact to the not just the society, to the
Yeah.
continent, the everything we do, right? Exactly. Like now, a lot of Nigerians also got into Chevening, the Chevening scholarship, where they'll be schooling
Yeah.
in the UK. How did you do it?
Incredible.
Even if it's
Yeah.
have 20 minutes with them, 30 minutes with them, anyhow,
Yeah.
get one or two pieces of information. Oh, how did you do it? How did you apply? How did you know about, how long have you been trying? Because some people that
Yeah.
get into cheating try two, three, four, 5 times, seven
Yeah.
times as much. What changed? What did you do that made it change and you got the scholarship? They
Yes.
share. Oh, that's what, okay, this is how they do it. Okay, I'm going to apply this. That's basically
Yeah.
what I want to solve.
Yeah. Information is so powerful. I think there's something I always say about you do not need a position to be a leader, really. Like there's something called self leadership.
Yes.
Even at your job, you are a leader if you are self-led.
Yes.
You're given a task. Are you
Yes.
able to own the task and say,
Yes.
okay, I am going to do this task to the best of my ability. I'm going
Yeah.
to ensure that I reach out to the client. That is self-leadership in itself.
Mm-hmm.
You're already being groomed, even though you're
Yes.
not being given the position. Excuse me. Even though you're
Yeah.
not, sorry, just give me a
Yeah.
moment.
No problem. No problem.
I apologize for
No, no, no,
that.
no. It's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens.
So
It happens.
I really like the fact that you are not just focusing on the big guys,
Yeah.
but you're focusing on also the upcoming big guys
It's
or
true.
even big guys in their own field. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that this is going to be incredible. Like I've told you several times that this is going to be
Yeah.
this is going to be incredible. I also know the story of the girl that you're talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
was mind blown. There are also several people here in Canada as well, and even in the US. Imagine the Calendly guy top like that is
Really.
incredible. Starting from just putting his idea over and over, and it also feeds into failure. Like people say, "Oh, I don't want to fail," and all. Like this podcast will really help you to just push yourself out there. Failure is
Yeah.
the first step to success. So just put yourself out there and all of that. So yeah, incredible job. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Thank you. Now let's move a bit back to the segment one. We've talked about the segment two, the upcoming
Yeah,
leaders that have shown potential. The segment one, we'll be looking into, having C-suite executives, the
yeah,
ones that accept our, because it's not easy getting this. It's difficult getting these C-suite guys.
I
It's
can
hard.
imagine.
When I mean hard, it's hard. You know, even with my sales skills, it's not easy getting a hold of these guys. Um, Already some have given us a yes. We've recorded some episodes already. We've scheduled more episodes into the future. We have some episodes already scheduled into November at the moment,
Nice.
October at the moment as well. We also have ones that said maybe this is not the right time, and it's so I know it would come.
It's
I was
okay.
expecting
Yeah.
it. This is not the right time, okay? And I know those ones probably need more validity. We need to prove more what we're doing, and then come back to them. I'm definitely gonna go back to them, right? The ones they can do is probably not respond to me or say another no to me, but I'm gonna come back to them. But I need to
That's why you're in
prepare.
sales. Yeah.
Exactly, know what it is. So I'm gonna prepare, go back, prepare, get myself prepared, and then go back to them again, right? So basically, this guy, this top leaders are C-suite directors, founders, co-founders, chief operating officers, CFOs, all the C guys, directors. And then we could also add managers as time goes on because they're also in
Yeah.
leadership. But we want to start with the top, and then gradually, when we've maxed our bandwidth, we could gradually come down to the managers. And yeah, anybody in leadership positions as well, we'll just get their insights, have conversations with them. But one key thing that we want to also be intentional when we're having conversations with these big guys, the
Yeah.
top leaders, is vulnerability.
Hmm.
It's not
That's
easy.
good.
Um, we did not capture it. We captured it in a lot of our, about 80% of the episodes we record already. We captured a segment of it, trying to ask them to be. It's not everyone that is comfortable being vulnerable on camera. And I sincerely believe this is what would separate this podcast, Leadership and Leverage podcast, from every other podcast, right? More like asking them, where do you think you made mistakes?
I
Or
like
where do you
that.
think you've made mistakes as a leader?
Yeah.
Fortunately, some of our, guests have been kind enough to share, right? Some guests have talked about when they got disappointed because of certain things people did, when they felt they were being too nice and people took it for granted.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things we want to hear. Some guests also talked about, you know, when they didn't know how to lead properly, they probably should have done some things differently.
Yeah.
You know, these kind of vulnerability are what we want to basically
Sure.
show, right? So basically, we, apart from being vulnerable, is a different in saying, "Oh, I made mistakes here. I made mistakes there." Like, what did they learn from it?
Yes.
You know, so they able to share with us. Okay, if it is now, this is how I would handle this. That area of the conversation is what I would encourage our viewers to focus on as well. I'm not saying other areas, other part of the conversation are not beneficial. They are,
Yeah.
but we need to give more attention to those areas that leaders may have made mistakes, so that you learn from it and you don't make those mistakes. And it's
Yes.
not just about the segment one, the segment two, though sometimes younger folks might not be open to sharing you know, their downtime because of
Not
who they
yet.
are. Yeah,
Until we get to the top.
exactly. So, but we'll still ask them, are there things are there mistakes you probably made, and how you think you could have corrected it? Then, if we
Yes.
are fortunate to get responses, that's fine. If they're okay sharing it on camera, that's okay. So, Ayo, do you now see where we're heading to, where we're coming from, and where we're heading to with the podcast?
I buy into your
And
vision. I buy into
yeah,
your
so
vision. Yeah.
it's huge. And the funny thing, Ayo, is if I start thinking so much about we can't afford to approach the problem from all, and we have to start somewhere, start little. If
Yeah.
not, we'll be thinking so much about how huge of the project it is and end up not doing anything. Just want to start
Yeah.
it gradually, step by step. And do you think that area of the podcast, the vulnerability, do you think it's an area that is worth giving a shot?
I think that's really your cash cow, to be honest. Like that is
Right?
honestly, that is what would distinguish this podcast from a lot of other leadership podcasts. The vulnerability. Always big on being human. I know a lot
Yeah.
of times people want to front, be like, well, I'm this and that, but you're human. Like there is still a soft spot to you. So I think that would be I feel like there's sometimes I'll probably fast forward. I really want to hear the vulnerability part.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, even though
You
I'll
know,
listen to the whole thing, but it will be something that I'll be waiting to listen to. And I think it's something that you could even put maybe towards the end so that people are compelled to really listen all through and then get to that point. So
I agree with you, Ayo. I had I had a recording, recorded an episode with the founder and CEO of Seller, where
nice.
people can sell digital
Yes.
products.
I know Stella. Yeah.
Yeah, Seller is uh, Seller is completely bootstrapped.
Wow.
Their revenue is something I can't even see on camera. And after we recorded it, he said this is one of that he doesn't do podcasts, but this is one of the best conversations he has ever had. And I
Wow.
myself, I felt it. You could sense when someone is having a heart-to-heart conversation with you.
Yes.
You don't need, unless you're someone that need to improve on your observatory skills and maybe try to get more attuned to your instincts. If
Yeah.
someone is having a heart-to-heart conversation with you, you would know.
You would know. Yes.
You don't need a suit. You would know.
What whole human?
You would know. So I had this
Yeah.
very great conversation with him. He's a young founder, still in his 20s. Had this great conversation, and you know, one of the best podcasts we've ever recorded so far. One of the best. So vulnerability is something I would.
Yes.
When we recorded the first podcast, though the guest was also vulnerable, I didn't see it as an area that could give us a competitive advantage for the
Hmm.
podcast. It was later when I started, because I've invested so much time in ideating and
Yes.
fine tuning while we are heading to in this podcast. Just like Mark Zuckerberg, the founder CEO of Meta, Facebook, would always
Yes.
say, ideas don't come out fully formed.
Yeah.
So I always sometimes time block on my calendar and think about where am I heading to with this? What are we doing? Like, and I got to understand that for us to make this podcast unique and distinct, we have to see how we can help on the vulnerability. Like,
Yes.
tell us what's different. What could you have done differently?
Yeah.
Mistakes you've made, right? And it shows a lot of what's the right word? A lot of leadership to also talk about your feelings. Just like for us that believe in God and there are Christians in the Bible,
Yeah.
most people talk about their own feelings in the Bible because
Yeah.
they wanted people to learn from it as well. So
Yeah.
when they made mistakes, some prophet when they made mistakes, they said it in the
Yeah.
Bible. So vulnerability is one key thing as a leader, accepting that, oh, I made a mistake here.
Yes.
I learned it. It shows that
Yeah.
you're a true leader.
Yes. Totally agree.
It shows you're a true
Yeah.
leader.
And just to say something, I feel
Yeah,
like
go on,
I
please.
lean I lean more to people that, because I would consider myself very self-aware and in tune. So I lean on to people that just be open. Like we are just human beings as well. Like you mentioned, the Bible is filled with lots of mistakes. That's why it's a credible book. It's filled
Yes,
with lots of mistakes and what people did as well. It's not a perfect or a perfect person kind of book. You see a lot of people there that talk
yeah,
about their failures and all of that. So definitely, I would say that vulnerability side is something you should don't scrap it. I'm glad
yeah,
that you're really discovering the fruit that that could bring. And a lot of leaders really just want to unburden. They just want to unburden, but they wouldn't do that to just anybody. They go to the boardrooms all the time. They are on the field all the time, doing a lot of work. There is something about someone that as a vision, like not everybody would understand, but when you find somebody that just gets you, like that changes everything. And that's what this podcast is really doing. And yes, it's really here to stay and change lives. Yeah.
yeah. I'm looking forward to releasing episode one
Yeah.
of the podcast. Currently, we have the season one. We've recorded all the season one, 10 episodes. Amazing people. You know, the share things. It's a lot of like. There's a lot to learn when you have conversations with these leaders. When you think I'm not trying to say, when you think
But
like
yeah,
when you listen to some people share something like, oh, I never knew this.
interesting.
I never knew this, and you're like, okay, this sounds good. Or this is how you've been solving this problem. So I can't wait to start sharing. We're thinking of releasing one episode per week. Um,
Nice.
so in 4 weeks we should be looking at 4 episodes. That what we're thinking at the moment. We don't know if we'll change that, but tentatively that's what we're looking at. And hopefully would maintain momentum because that's the main thing,
Yeah.
consistency. And that consistency has led us to, as we're done with season one, we're already thinking of season two,
Nice.
already working on it and planning. around it. So yeah, that's it basically. And I'm just encouraging everyone that is listening, that is watching us right now. Please stay with us. Subscribe to the channel, this YouTube
Yes.
channel. Subscribe, subscribe, and we'll get better. We know there are some things in this season one that might not look so good when it comes to maybe editing, the content, things of that sort. Um, Stay with us. We'll get better. By the time we're up to season five, of course, you see a huge difference. You won't compare
Yes.
season one to season five. So stay with us, share our videos, like our videos, comment. We're open to feedback, either through the
Yes.
comments or through, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, wherever you're comfortable with. Tell me, give me feedback, give us feedback. Tell us where you think we can improve on. We're open to that, and we'll be glad to take that in and work on it. So thank you so much, Ayo, for
Thank you.
coming on board. Hopefully we'll get you more involved on, maybe hosting some sessions with the leaders, or in some other way, in any way we could get you in. And thank you so much for sharing a lot about your personal experience with great leaders and horrible leaders as well, and also
Yeah.
what people can expect from this podcast. So appreciate you, and
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much,
much.
Ayo.
Thank you so much for having me. Like Chika mentioned, stay tuned. This is a place to be
Uh-huh.
honest. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. So, yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
excited for everything this podcast has to offer. Yeah.
Thank you
Good
so
job.
much, Ayo. And yeah, take care, guys.